Personal identity. This is a metaphysical problem, and it involves multiple parts, of course. In terms of the personal part, there's the question of what is it to be a person? Now, this is the metaphysical question. What is it metaphysically to be a person? Which is distinct from the legal question of what it is to be a person, which is, of course, also distinct from what it is morally to be a person. And although they can be connected, so one rational way to approach the question of, say, legal personhood would be to begin with metaphysical personhood, sort out what a person is, move on to, from there to moral personhood in terms of moral status, and then use that to set what legal persons are. Now, for the legal personhood, that's relatively easy. It's simply law is passed, declaring that whatever is a legal person. This could be a corporation. It could be anything that the person making the law or people making it decide, as long as it passes. So squirrels legally could be made into people. So could roast beef sandwiches. Really no legal limits. Now, in addition to the personal part, there's also, of course, the identity part. First question here is this. What is it to be the same person across time? So what is it that ties me now with the past, person that happens to have the, same name as me? Now, normally we don't really think about this. We don't wonder, gosh, am I metaphysically the same person I was? Now, of course, informally, we often, talk about how I'm not the same person, or I've changed, or we talk about other people changing. But this is not a question of, changes in personality or behavior. It's literally being metaphysically a different or same person. Then there's a question of what is it to be one person distinct from all other people and things? So what is it that makes me not everyone and everything else? So those are kind of the big three questions there. Namely, what is it to be a person metaphysically? What is it to be that same person across time, extending back and into the future? And what is it to be one person distinct from all the people and things? So one very good question might be is, why would this be important? Well, here are some reasons why personal identity would be important. One obvious thing, of course, is afterlife or not. Depending on what the person is or is not, determines whether the person can persist after death. Also, as I mentioned, it does tie into moral status, because being a person is generally taken to come with certain moral, if you believe in rights, moral rights, or at least a moral status. That means that certain things would be wrong to do to a person that would be okay or not bad to do to objects. And so it ties into moral issues like abortion, euthanasia, and of course the moral status of non-humans, which could include things like animals, if you want to get sci-fi, things like androids, robots, and aliens. And so it's important for those moral status issues. And of course, as I alluded to earlier, questions of legal status. And legal status, again, is kind of the easiest thing, because the law is whoever is in charge and passing the laws makes it. But then there's the moral question of, is a law morally justified? And there's also the question of, does the law that claims, say, squirrels or corporations or people, does that really have any metaphysical or real foundation, or are people just making stuff up? Next, we'll turn to looking at a particular philosopher talking about personal identity, our good dead friend, John Locke.